Suzuki just ripped the covers off 5 brand new bikes, and they're coming in hot. From a retro that oozes old school cool to a middleweight sport bike with heavyweight punch to a tour packed with tech and an ADV that's actually built to get dirty. This is way more than a launch. Suzuki just revealed 5 bikes that will crush the competition. First up is the GSX-8T. If you've been hoping Suzuki would do a retro with real substance, the GSX-8T is the one that finally gets it right. Fire it up and the GSX-8T greets you with that offbeat thrum riders always describe as feels like a little V-twin, because Suzuki's 776cc parallel twin runs a 270-degree crank and uses the brand's cross-balancer to keep the vibes friendly without muting character. What that means from the saddle is simple. You short shift, surf the mid-range, and the bike answers with a smooth, eager shove that makes neighborhood corners feel like you planned them. It's the kind of engine you ride by ear as much as by touch, and it's the heart that gives this retro its grin. The fun sticks because the chassis and the rider aids are dialed for everyday mischief. Suzuki fits the 8T with a bidirectional quick shifter as standard, so your right hand can stay steady while your left foot does quick, clean clicks up and down. The Suzuki Intelligent Ride System layers in 3 power modes and 4 traction control levels, including off, to match weather, road, and mood. It's the opposite of menu maze tech, so you can set it, forget it, ride harder. A bright 5-inch TFT keeps your info legible, and there's a USB-C on the dash because this bike expects to be your daily. None of that is aftermarket fluff. It's factory kit on the 8T. Suzuki also made the style pieces do real work. The mono round LED headlight and compact cowl nail the look without blocking your view. The tuck and roll seat isn't just pretty, it's sculpted to hold you in place when you roll on through a sweeper. Bar end mirrors come stock and actually clear your elbows, which sounds small until you're threading traffic. And buried in the feature list is a neat practical flex. The high Batelli IP series lithium battery from Ely Power, chosen for reliable starts and long life, exactly the sort of thing that makes a retro easier to live with than the old bikes it nods to. Throw a leg over, and the numbers line up with how friendly it feels. Seat height is a confidence-boosting 32 inches, curb weight is a reasonable 443 pounds, and the bike carries 4.3 gallons of fuel, which is perfect for a Saturday that accidentally turns into 3 hours away from home. The geometry gives you that planted but nimble middleweight sweet spot, and the Nissan radial mount 4-piston brakes on twin 310s deliver grown-up bite when a decreasing radius corner sneaks up. None of this asks you to be a hero to have fun. It just rewards clean inputs with clean exits all day. So what's the price? This is where the 8T starts punching outside its weight. Suzuki lists a US base MSRP of $1,649 plus a $700 destination charge, and crucially, says the bike begins arriving at dealerships in August, which means your first ride isn't a someday promise, it's a calendar entry. 2 colors keep it classy, candy burnt gold or metallic matte black, and both look better bathed in dusk light than in any studio photo. So who's in the crosshairs? Start with Yamaha's XSR 900, the neo-retro with the rowdy CP3 triple. It's an awesome ride, and it starts at $10,599 before fees for $2,025. But the Yamaha plays the edgy, high-rev brawler, while the Suzuki leans into torque-rich roll-ons and a more old-school riding rhythm. If you love the XSR's aggression but want a calmer heartbeat and standard quick-shift plus full traction, power maps at this price. The 8T makes a compelling case. Then there's Kawasaki's Z900RS, the class-style icon with a glorious inline-4 whale. The Kawi is a stunner, but the 2025 base model starts at $12,649, and the Cafe sits higher on the sticker. That's a hefty premium before you get into add-ons. The Suzuki answers with a package that nails the retro vibe, bakes in the electronics you actually use every ride, and keeps the number on the showroom tag friendlier. If you measure crush in grins per dollar and how complete a bike feels right out of the crate, the 8T lands a heavy body shot. What's special about living with the 8T is how quickly it disappears under you in the best possible way. Commuting, it's quiet confidence. The low RPM assist smooths out clumsy launches on cold mornings. The quick shifter takes the sting out of stop and go, and the upright triangle keeps your back from writing angry emails. If your short list reads retro look, modern manners, actual daily usability, this Suzuki does the thing. You get personality without punishment and tech without homework, at a price that lets you budget for tires and trips instead of just the payment. And because timing matters, the August arrival means you can be that rider who shows up to bike night with the new thing that isn't just new, it's right. Now, the next bike keeps the same addictive twin and turns up the attitude with some wind and attitude. Let's move over to the GSX 8TT. Take the 8T's bones, give it a chin spoiler, a tidy headlight cowl, stitched upholstery, and a little extra swagger, and you've got the GSX 8TT. Slide in behind the factory quarter fairing, and the whole bike changes character. Air pressure lifts off your chest, a tidy round LED frames the lane ahead, and the twin underneath you keeps that offbeat 270-degree cadence that begs you to short shift and surf the torque. Suzuki literally shaped this cowl to nod at late 70s, early 80s quarter-faired street bikes, calling out AMA-era inspiration. And it's not just for looks, they designed it to reduce wind pressure on the rider so you can run a faster, calmer pace between corners. What makes the 8TT special is how complete it feels right out of the crate. You get the same 776cc DOHC parallel twin with Suzuki cross-balancer smoothness, so the soundtrack has that V-twin-like pulse without the old-school vibes through the bars. A standard bidirectional quick shifter backs the 6-speed box and the SIRS. Electronics give you 3 SDMS power maps and 4 traction control levels, including OFF, plus easy start and low RPM assist, so it's civil in traffic and playful everywhere else. The dash is a bright 5-inch TFT you can set today, night automatically, and there's a USB-C port on the cluster because this bike is meant to be ridden all week, not just on Sundays. Even the battery is a flex. Suzuki fits the High Battle E P-Series lithium unit for reliable starts and low self-discharge. The retro but useful theme keeps going into the details. Those bar-end mirrors aren't catalog cosplay. Suzuki engineered sturdy mounting stays so they stay steady at speed and clear your elbows for a cleaner forward view. The stitch seat isn't just pretty. Suzuki shaped it to make mounting easy and help you get more foot on the ground at stops. On paper, the numbers match how friendly it feels. Seat height is a very approachable 31.9 inches. Curb weight is 445 pounds ready to ride. Wheelbase sits at 57.7 inches and the tank carries 4.3 gallons. Which is a sweet spot for real weekend range. Price and timing seal the deal. Suzuki lists the GSX 8TT at $11,149 base MSRP in the US, with a $700 destination charge, offered in glass sparkle black or pearl matte shadow green. So who's the 8TT aiming to crush? It's kind of aiming at the Kawasaki Z900 RS family, the style icon of the class. The RS is gorgeous, and that inline-4 howl will always tug the heart, but it's playing at a higher price point in the US. Kawasaki lists the 2025 Z900 RS ABS at $12,649 before you even talk about cafe-style variants, which typically sit higher. The Suzuki counters with quarter-fairing swagger, a full modern electronic stack with quick shifter standard, and a lower base sticker. If your yardstick is retro feel per dollar plus the tech I'll use every ride, the 8TT hits hard. Then there's Yamaha's XSR 900. It's a riot, no doubt. And for 2025 Yamaha pegs it at $10,599 MSRP in the US, complete with its own 5-inch TFT and up-down quick shifter on the burly CP3 triple. But the flavor's totally different. The Yamaha is the edgy hooligan. It's revier, sharper, naked. The Suzuki is the retro roadster that slips into a calm, fast rhythm thanks to that fairing and the twins' throbby mid-range. If you want a factory quarter-faired neo-retro that reads classic when you park it and feels composed when you're hammering a windy connector, the 8TT gives you that vibe without sending you to the aftermarket for bodywork. Different tools, different fun, same goal of grins. Day to day, the 8TT's fun is the way it stretches rides. At the end of a long day, you realize the retro thing never asked you to pay for the look with your wrists or your neck. It just worked. That's the point. Now these two new street bikes are great, but if you are in the mood for a bike that fits perfectly on the track, you might want to consider the all-new sport bike. And that's the GSX 8R. drop your visor, and ease the clutch. 2 blocks later, you'll understand the GSX-8R's superpower. The 776cc parallel twin has that 270-degree heartbeat riders love because it pulls clean from low RPM and talks to the rear tire without drama. It's the same new-gen twin Suzuki built for everyday torque and feel, now tucked behind a wind tunnel fairing so the speed you carry doesn't beat you up. From the saddle, it's calm, responsive, and just a little naughty, like it wants you to take the long way home every single time. What makes the 8R click is how the hard parts disappear into the ride. Showa's SFF BP fork up front and a matched Showa shock and back give you that set then carve confidence on beat-up pavement. Radial mount Nissan 4-piston calipers bite dual 310mm rotors, so a late brake adjustment into a decreasing radius corner feels precise instead of panicked. The up-down quick shifter is standard, which means your right hand can focus on throttle shaping while your left foot does effortless, clutchless clicks. Seat height sits at a friendly 31.9 inches. Curb weight is 452 pounds ready to ride, and the tank holds 3.7 gallons to keep the front end feeling hunkered without turning gas stops into a scavenger hunt. The 5-inch TFT is clear and bright behind the screen, and Suzuki offers the 8R in metallic Triton blue, Pearl Tech white, or glass blaze orange, each with the sharp, modern bodywork that's become the 8 Series signature. None of that is guesswork. It's straight off Suzuki's 2026 spec sheet. Here's where it gets fun. Who the 8R is built to embarrass on a backroad Sunday. You wouldn't be wrong if you thought of the Yamaha's R7, the people's middleweight hero. It's a blast, minimal frills, maximum feel, and its 2025 MSRP lands at $9,199. But factor in what you actually use every ride. And the Suzuki swings back hard. The 8R gives you a standard bidirectional quick shifter, traction control with multiple levels, and that Showa SFF BP hardware, all for $9,699 base in 2026. If your happy place is stringing together rough, real-world corners, the Suzuki is basically value with upgrades already installed. Honda's CBR 650R e-clutch also has a target on its back. Honda's the only one in this price pocket offering an inline-4 soundtrack, and the optional auto clutch trick is cool. On dollars though, the CBR 650R e-clutch posts a $9,899 base plus destination, nudging above the Suzuki. Against that, the 8R answers with the lighter-feeling twins mid-range punch, standard quick shifter, and a chassis that reads the road like a seismograph. If you want a bike that flatters clean inputs on bumpy tarmac, the Suzuki's tuning pays off every mile. Feel like getting exotic? Aprilia's RS660 is the connoisseur's choice, and it's priced that way. Aprilia lists the RS660 at $11,749, and the factory even higher. It's a fabulous machine. It also costs a solid step up. The Suzuki's counterpunch is simple. It brings big brand dealer coverage, a gentler total cost of ownership, and a setup that's ready to hustle without mods. The 8R won't out-Italian the Aprilia, but it doesn't need to. It wins by being easier to buy, easier to live with, and ridiculously rewarding at sane speeds. What about the perennial class everyman, Kawasaki's Ninja 650? That bike is a price. Performance sweetheart at $7,399 for 2025. And it'll continue to make sense for tons of riders. But it's also playing a tear down on suspension spec and electronics. If your eye is drifting toward radial brakes, a modern TFT, multi-mode TC, and that SFF BP front end, the 8R justifies its higher tag by feeling like a proper, planted sport bike on rough county blacktop. It's the pay a bit more, get a lot more option. The best compliment you can give the 8R is that it makes you better. You notice yourself braking a touch lighter and earlier because the fork gives you a firm, communicative platform. You start to use gears as tools because the quick shifter makes tiny corrections effortless. You roll on smoother because the twin's mid-range makes traction feel abundant. It's the rare middleweight that welcomes new riders into speed and still keeps experienced riders engaged. And when the ride turns into an hour of ugly pavement between the good bits, the bodywork and ergonomics keep your focus where it belongs. Suzuki didn't slow down and gave the GSX Zone 1000 GX Plus. When you open the throttle, the GX Plus does a magic trick most bikes can't pull. The road gets calmer as your pace goes up. That's the crossover secret sauce. You've got a leader class inline 4 with GSX RDNA laying down that clean elastic shove, but the headliner is the bike's bri, Suzuki advanced electronic suspension, reading the surface and dialing damping in real time, while Suzuki Road adaptive stabilization quietly fights the wiggles you usually feel over seams and ripples. The sensation from the seat is weird in the best way. Expansion joints disappear, mid-corner patches lose their drama, and you arrive fresher, which makes you want to ride farther. Living with it feels like touring in sport bike shoes that actually fit. The cockpit is a proper command center. A bright 6.5-inch TFT that lets you tune suspension modes, active damping levels, and the whole SIRS suite. And it talks to your phone through Suzuki's MySpin, so maps, calls, and music live on the dash without duct taping a handset to the bar. The seat height is 33.3 inches, wheelbase 57.9 inches, curb weight 511 pounds measured without the cases on the bike, and the tank holds a healthy 5-gallon. Brembo 4-piston radial calipers bite dual 310s up front because a fast tourer still needs grown-up stoppers. The ergonomics are opened up from the GSX-S naked. Suzuki literally increased hip-to-peg distance. So you get that I can do 300 miles and still want to play at the overlook feeling. Every one of those details sits right on the spec sheet. And then there's the part that makes owners nod in parking lots. The Plus. In the US, the GX Plus lands with color-matched, quick-release side cases and a center stand from day one. They're not afterthoughts. Each case swallows 25.7 liters in keys to the ignition, and the stand turns chain lube and tire checks from a hassle into a 60-second favor. If you've ever tried to do roadside maintenance with a side stand and a prayer, you know how big a deal that is. Suzuki calls the luggage capacity out explicitly in its brochure and press release, and the center stand is standard kit, not a parts counter hunt. Price and value are where the crush the competition narrative gets interesting. Suzuki posts a US-based MSRP of $18,599 for the 2025 model with a $600 destination charge. Stack that against Yamaha's 2025 Tracer 9, which starts at $12,599. Great value, lighter, and a class down on outright pace and sophistication, and you see the GX Plus clearly sitting in the high-feature, high-speed lane. Now look up the ladder at BMW's S1000 XR. The 2025 XR's base is $17,995 in the US, and it's a missile when optioned. But once you start matching luggage and niceties, that number climbs fast. Kawasaki's Versys 1100 SE LT ABS lists at $19,499 for 2025 and brings its own electronic suspension, but the Suzuki counters with its SAES SRAS combo and the cases and center stand included angle. The punchline is that the GX Plus stakes out a middle ground. It's more muscular and more tech-forward than the Tracer, a neater all-in price than a similarly equipped XR, and a value nudge against the Versys 1100 by giving you touring hardware out of the gate. The fun shows up in unexpected places. On a windy day, that taller stroke chassis and electronic damping turn crosswinds from white knuckle into nudge and carry on. On broken mountain asphalt, you keep your line instead of bouncing off it, so you can ride at a brisk clip without the mental fatigue that usually taxes you by lunchtime. And when the road finally smooths out, the Leader 4 remembers its family name. You get that deep mid-range inhale that makes third gear feel like a superpower, and the quick shifter eggs you into cleaner, earlier upshifts. You finish days that used to drain you and think, let's loop one more pass. Even the small touches feel rider-driven. The 3-position screen went through wind tunnel iterations, so the air is clean rather than just deflected. The handlebars rubber-mounted to keep the buzz down during long slogs. The handguards keep knuckles happy when temps drop. And when you pop the cases off at a hotel, the mounting hardware is low-key enough that the bike still looks sharp for a dinner run. Those are all called out in Suzuki's feature breakdown, and they add up on the road. Finally, the V-Strom 800DE. If your idea of a perfect day is a ribbon of 2-lane that suddenly turns to hardpack and keeps getting prettier, the V-Strom 800DE is the Suzuki that keeps saying yes. Thumb the starter, and that 776cc parallel twin wakes with a loping 270-degree cadence, which is torquey, calm, and grippy at low RPM. Thanks to Suzuki's cross-balancer layout. It's the same new-gen heart that makes the GSX-8 street bikes feel alive. Only here, it's tuned to tractor up loose climbs without buzzing your hands to sleep on the pavement in between. Suzuki calls the 800DE its most dirt-capable V-Strom, and the hardware backs the talk. The first, oh wow moment comes from the stance. You're looking over a proper 21-inch front wheel with a 17-out back, wrapped in semi-block Dunlop TrailMax mixture rubber, and both ends get a generous 8.7 inches or 220 millimeters of Showa-supplied suspension travel. What seals the Go Explore personality is the electronics. The 800DE runs Suzuki's SIRS, suite with ride-by-wire and STMS power maps, but the off-pavement trick is its traction control with a dedicated gravel mode. It lets the rear spin just enough to find drive without turning the day into a slideshow. And if you want full say over the back tire, the bike lets you switch rear wheel ABS off for dirt. Day-to-day fit and range feel purpose-built. Seat height is 33.7 inches, which is tall on paper, friendlier in practice thanks to the slim midsection. The value story is blunt in a world of pricey adventure cosmetics. Suzuki pegs the US-based MSRP at $11,709 for the 2025 V-Strom 800DE Plus Destination. That plants it neatly between the minimalist folk hero and the rally-ready exotics, while showing up with a real electronics toolkit and the long-leg suspension you actually feel on rough county roads. That price is right on Suzuki's model page. So who's this bike up against? The Yamaha Tenere 700 is the people's champ at $10,999 for 2025 in the US. If your life is more BDR than Boulevard, the T7 is still a legend. The Suzuki's counterpunch is a broader travel brief. More electronics for mixed conditions, a bigger 5.3-gallon tank for longer connectors, and a chassis that reads calmer on beat-up pavement. If your week includes commuting, a paved mountain loop, and a gravel overlook, the 800DE's balance is the win. Those prices and model notes are straight from Yamaha and Suzuki. Next up is Honda's Transalp. It's a sweetheart of a middleweight, light on its feet, and priced to tempt at $9,999. In the real world, the Honda's road manners are terrific, but out of the box, it's a little more street-biased in stance and electronics. The Suzuki leans dirt a touch harder, 21-inch front, that 8.7-inch suspension travel at both ends, and the gravel mode, rear ABS off combo that encourages actual off-pavement play. Again, those are official numbers and features from Honda's and Suzuki's pages. Then there's the KTM's 890 Adventure R. Now this is kind of a wild card. It's long legs, rally swagger, and a sticker to match, with dealers listing $15,799 for 2025. It's phenomenal in the rough. And if you live in whoops and rock gardens, the R is the hammer. Suzuki doesn't try to out-rally it. The 800DE out-reasons it for riders whose adventures include a lot of pavement to and from the good stuff. You keep the 21-inch geometry and travel, but pay less and get an easier, quieter road day in between. So the 8T gives you retro swagger without retro headaches. The 8TT adds a quarter fairing and turns wind into free speed. The 8R makes smooth, fast riding feel natural with grown-up suspension and a standard quick shifter. The GX Plus cheats bad pavement with a smart brain and shows up tour-ready out of the box. And the V-Strom 800DE adds a 21-inch front, long travel, and gravel-ready electronics for mixed surfaces. Pick the one that matches your roads. If this helped, leave your choice in the comments and subscribe. As usual, ride safe.